growth stage 10. This is absolutely one of the most ideal times to be applying our plant nutrition and plant health fungicide applications onto flag leaf. Let's get into why. Kat Slois, Director of Research at the McGregor Company. Today I'm outside of Hermiston, Oregon at one of our winter wheat variety trial, seed treat, plant nutrition, and grassy weed control trial sites. I'm going to be walking you through the downy brome. A little bit later, it's easier to see once that brome heads out, but this is a great demonstration of the coaxium wheat system. We have some of the coaxium varieties sprayed with aggressor herbicides and several of the group 2s. Pretty interesting at this location. Tremendous history of the use of group 2s and nearly complete resistance across that group. So, like I said, a little bit later on. But what today did remind me of is the fusion variety that we're using in that trial is quite early. It's at Feeks growth stage 10, which means the head is emerging out of the boot. So what should we be thinking about when our wheat is at that growth stage? Let's take a look at what that growth stage is and some things to be thinking about with the flag leaf plant nutrition and fungicide flag to finish type thought process. At the Athena location, I had between 16 and 18 spikelets per head. At this location, I've got between 11 and 13. At Athena, we were sitting on 4 to 5 fertile florets per spikelet, and in this location, we're right at 2. So why was I so excited to see that Feeks 10 growth stage? Well, it's really one of the most ideal growth stages to think about managing our wheat from the flag leaf to grain fill finish. Let me explain why. There are 2 yield components that we can affect at this time. Remember those 3 yield components: heads per acre, grains per head, and the weight of each one of those grains. Each of these yield components has a period of time which they are most sensitive to stresses and most responsive to our management inputs. That heads per acre component is determined between seeding and stem elongation, which is generally considered growth stage 6. Our grains per head has really 2 different factors: maximum spikelets per head, which is determined at the beginning of stem elongation, and fertile florets per spikelet, which is determined right at flowering, and then weight of each one of those grains. Fertile florets per spikelet and weight of each one of those grains, those yield components start right now. Head size is set right at the beginning of stem elongation. I mean, that's what we've been traditionally told. And that's true to a point. So the maximum amount of spikelets that plant will ever produce is indeed determined right at the beginning of stem elongation. However, more recent research has really shown that it's the amount of fertile florets per each one of those spikelets that ultimately determines how many grains per head that crop will produce. The fertile florets per spikelet are really determined when that plant is flowering. So the amount of florets on that actual spikelet, we want there to be a nice volume. This location only has about 2 or 3. We would expect that. The yield potential at this location is less than Athena by a pretty substantial amount. But if we can ensure that the pollen viability in each one of those florets actually produces a grain, that will still produce a pretty nice yielding crop. So what tools do we have to try to finish what we started with those fertile florets per spikelet? And what tools do we have to try to maximize the weight of each one of those grains? Because those are the yield components that we can still affect. Well, I think the research that the McGregor Company has been doing really points to using fungicides paired with foliar nutrition at flag leaf timing. And I think there's a couple thought processes as to why that is. I mean, first is there is rust in the area. I'm in northeastern Oregon, and I have found rust in this region. So by applying fungicides right as that flag leaf is at full emergence and the head is at full emergence, we absolutely maximize our investment and protect as much of that solar panel to the wheat as we possibly can. The second is around right time, right place. So as that crop is going into heading, as we start putting on pollen, the more photosynthesis and upregulation of water and nitrogen we can encourage that plant to do, the more pollen viability. So we get a better set on those florets, and we can maximize the yield component of grains per head. I thought it was really interesting that at our Hooper location, which is traditionally about a 14-inch rainfall, last year we did applications of 7 ounces of Nexicor paired with 3 gallons of Raleigh. We made that application the second week of May, and when I went and took pictures, I was 45 days post-application. When I went and took pictures, and I'll hopefully throw this on, I still saw a very visual difference in the stay green effect at that point in a dryland scenario. So this is outside of Hermiston, probably more like a 12-inch rainfall location. I would expect that we would see similar results, that we get that stay green effect, and it's a way that we can try to extend grain fill as much as possible. Selection of our varieties and trying to select varieties that head early but have longer grain fill is also one of those advantages. I'll walk you through the variety trial a little bit later, but it was interesting. I thought Norwest Tandem was a variety that was heading early and traditionally has very long grain fill. LCS Jet is another variety like that is one of the first to head, but it's also one of the last to finish, and I think that's one of the secrets on why that variety is such a high yielding variety. So I hope that gave you some ideas on what to be thinking about management wise. We spend so much time and effort in the beginning of the season, and really that is affecting our plants per acre. So when you think about your seed treat, your variety, your herbicides, all of that is just getting our plants per acre right. Think about what you've done to manage your wheat through that grains per head and weight of each one of those grains. You should have an intentional plan to capitalize on those last 2 yield components. Think about the tools that you have to maximize grain fill. It will really be worth it in the end.